your children will inherit the benefits. Don't look for the rewards, but your children will inherit the benefits of what you do. So pay it forward. And so I was very sad and very depressed because I'm the oldest of 6 children, and my mom's sacrificed a lot to bring us over to U.S. in 1961. She by herself brought 5 kids from 8 years old, all a year apart, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. And my dad was already over here. So she by herself brought 5 kids over. So when she passed away, I was very affected. And interestingly enough, there's a group called VN Help asked me to come and meet David with the Wheelchair Foundation that September. Do you remember that, David? Our first meeting in September. And I said, hey, let's do a fundraiser for Vietnam. And that's how I got started. And we did a fundraiser in March called Wheel and Grace, because at that time, I don't know if you're old enough to remember the sitcom Will and Grace. We say, hey, that's a cool idea. So I guess that tradition continues each year with the Will and Grace. And so we did our first distribution in 2003, and I think some of you attended that. And I love working with David. It's so rewarding. I met Ken and Jeff and Jane and everyone there, and it was so rewarding, and it was so easy working with them. And then I met, as you in the other distribution, we work with different organizations, right, David? We worked with Children's First and Son Michael Farm out of Seattle. And I wasn't really quite involved with the distribution quite yet. But then I think my mom sent me to Travis. He has a heart of gold, because he is not just his Sapio travel is just a side, but his how shall I say, his heart is giving back also. Yes. So he does a lot. So we started working with Travis in 2015 to accept the wheelchair. So I've been working with David and Eva in China. So every time we did a fundraiser, I said, okay, Eva, we have 1 container or 2 containers, and Eva, because it takes about 4 months to get it over here, right, David? Come up here and tell me. Come on, you can share this story with me. It's a journey with both of us. It's not just me, but I like to share it with David and I, because it's our journey. It's not just my journey. But I am so glad I met David. So you can share some of that. So then, so you can share some of how you, with the different groups before you met me. Maybe you can tell a little bit about how you met before you. Yeah.
Yeah, there were probably about 4 different groups along the way. A lot of the people in the bus knew Roger Farrell from Kids First. So we went and worked, I think that was the name of his organization. And he had married a Vietnamese woman. He was coming over here periodically. So we came and spent time with him. Then there was another gentleman that was Rotarian, and I met him, I think, at a conference named was Son Michael Pham. And we also did, I think, 2 distributions with his group when we came here. So Helen and I have basically worked together for about 20 years. And each fundraiser, we always try to generate about $100,000. And in this last fundraiser, half of it went to wheelchairs, half of it went to clean water systems. And Helen tried very diligently to let us get back and see some of the clean water systems, but there was too much bureaucracy involved. And I think it would have taken up 4 hours in order to go back and maybe spend 15 minutes looking at these clean water devices. So we had to pass on that. But my first visit, I think I told you before, was with Mike Weber. And so when Mike and I came over here, I think we were the only ones, right? And your brother. There was just 3 of us.
Yeah.
We didn't really have anybody else.
Right.
And then Roger took us to a lot of different areas. And for those of you who are here the first time, it's night and day. So what you see in the traffic, the buildings, the modes of transportation. But the people haven't changed. The people are wonderful. They've been very receptive. And I'm sure it's going to be that way today. But Helen's just an incredible partner. She basically brings in the entire Vietnamese community. So we usually have 250 people.
Yeah. So the first trip.
We don't have another one planned yet.
Yeah. The first trip I went with Dave was in Hanoi, and I believe there's a video of me talking. It's called Candle in the Wind or something.
Yeah.
Candle of light.
Candle of light.
Candle of Light. And I just want to share that was my very first experience in Hanoi. So I gave a wheelchair to this old lady, and she had a son that she couldn't carry. So she knew there were not very many Vietnamese people at that time. So she told me in Vietnamese, she said, "You not only affected my life, but you affected my son's life and my husband's life, because now I don't have to, with the wheelchair, I don't have to carry him here and there." So I was very touched by that. And then as I was going down the line for the chance for the people who received the wheelchair to thank us, there was also a girl in about her 20s, and she started crying and said that she doesn't deserve the wheelchair. I said, she said, I am in Vietnamese, she said, "I am not worthy to receive this wheelchair." And I couldn't hold it any longer. I said, and so she has asked me, she goes, "Can you go back to the United States and help our people and tries to raise more wheelchairs?" So I think my mom kind of gave me the inspiration to continue to do this. So I want to thank everyone here on the bus from the bottom of my heart. Because without you, these people won't be able to have the wheelchair, and I think it's really important, the mobility. And that's why I like working with David. Everything is yes. the things I make him do, I made him go all the way to the city, about 2 hours, just to get some Vietnamese food, so I can introduce him to some donors and things like that, because they all want to meet him. But
You can't say no to Helen.
I think everyone that knows me said I voluntold people.
Yeah.
So, but I think that comes from a place of sincerity and a place of heart. So, and also I wanted to share my country with you, because I think the people here are very warm, and I think war is stupid, but anyway, that's my opinion. But when you get a chance, between now and your last trip at the end of the week, take the time to know one-on-one. You don't have to be on film or anything, but I think it's important to know the behind the story. What I like about David is not, because I went on another distribution last year in November with another group, but what I like about David is he's always try to reach out and find the behind the story. Why do you need wheelchair? And to connect with the people, and that was very. So I think it's very important to connect with the people, and because some of the ladies on Saturday, she has been there since 7 o'clock just to get the wheelchair, just to make sure that she deserves the wheelchair. And again, she said, and she started crying, kissing my hand, and I and I don't think that I deserve that, but it affects people. So I just want to thank everyone here so much. David, you want to say anything else? Oh, and also, okay, Travis, sorry. Travis, by the way, I have to introduce you. Travis, come up here. It's a long process to get shipping from the wheelchairs from China to Haiphong, which is a port in North Vietnam. So this time, because of the storm, Travis had a very difficult, and we were worried, David and I, that the containers wouldn't arrive in time, or might be damaged or anything like that. But Travis' persistence, and he not only that, but he got 5 or 6 of his friends to unload from the port. And how many did you say? You can tell them a little bit what happened. Go ahead. Travis can share some of it firsthand. No, that's what he told me. Go ahead. This is our stories.
Okay, so at the time when the container arrived in Hanoi, most of the story in Hanoi was influenced by the typhoon and flood, because Hanoi at the time was influenced by the flood. And then some of the story that we tend to story the company, the wheelchair there was not work, so we have to find out, or I have to phone all my friends, and then one of my friends in Thương Tín, that's about 20 kilometers away from the center downtown Hanoi, and then he agreed to for us to use a source storage for free. and then all the wheelchair was unloaded there. And then day by day, the truck from other provinces come in and then take the wheelchair. And then now you see, though you can see it when we arrive at Phan Rang or Catholic church in Dong Nai or in Saigon or in Hue and Quảng Trị and also in the north of Vietnam, and everything is ready there and waiting for us. So I think that's what we in Vietnam we should do, because without you, without Wheelchair Foundation, Vietnamese people, we don't have a chance to have a wheelchair. Because by the early of this year, I have one statistics that every year Vietnam need 3 million wheelchair, and then just only 20% that receive the wheelchair. So what do you do with it? You know, we really appreciate what you do for us, for Vietnamese people. Thank you so much.
But he felt to tell you that he works really closely with the Vietnamese Red Cross to facilitate the process, because we don't know who to give it to, or so that he has to work with the Red Cross, and they work through the application like 3 or 4 months before you inform them that we're going to distribute a wheelchair a certain day. And so then they ask the local Red Cross of each province to do the application, and we call out for the application, except the Children's Center. But everybody else, he's been working through the Red Cross. So today's also through the Red Cross, and then the rest of the trips through the Red Cross too. So as you know, I don't know, no matter what, still a communist country. So you still have to go through the paperwork and all the official. In the past, David's been through it sometime. We have to listen to speeches for all the official. Remember that? It takes so long, just the speech, and I feel really bad for the people who came there 2-3 hours in advance and have to go home. So I asked Travis if we can just cut it, have David do his speech, show them how to do the wheelchairs, and get out of there within an hour. So I'm glad he facilitated. And by the way, did you guys enjoy the trip so far that Travis did it for us? Let me give him a hand. I mean, Antoine, my husband, by the way, I haven't recognized my husband. Without him, this wouldn't have happened. Yeah.
No bueno.
But with our trip, because each time we go, we know which gets better, hopefully better. So then David, I felt bad in the last few trips, he never get to go to the beach. So this time I said, Travis, can you make it so we go first thing in the morning and then have lunch and then have the rest of the afternoon home? And then he's been trying to, help us with that. And also the restaurants, Antoine and I, Chet and I would have been going to some good restaurants. So we've been asking them to make it a little bit better. My husband, do you want to say anything? No?
John won't let me.
Come on, John, let him say a little.
No, that's good. That's good. Everyone's.
I'm going to tell one story about Mike.
Oh yeah, tell one story about Mike. Come on, go ahead.
No, let David.
Okay,
David
go
tell.
ahead.
David tell.
So my very first trip to Vietnam, Mike Weber was with me, and we were sitting down with a group of recipients, and after we gave the wheelchairs, we all sat down for lunch, and they put everybody next to each other. And I think, Mike, you were the one that asked the girl the question. She was about 17, and he said something like, where did you grow up? What happened? And she goes, well, through the translator, the American B-52 bombers killed my father and my uncle. I think it was her uncle. And Mike's sitting across from her, and you could just hear a pin drop. And it's like, God, what do I reply to that? And then this really sweet 17-year-old, she looks at Mike, she smiles, and she said, that was then, this is now, we're friends. And we gave that girl a wheelchair, and then her family invited me to come visit her. So we had to take a taxi. It was like a 15-20 minute ride from downtown Hanoi. We walk on a dirt path. We got video and pictures of it. And we go out to her house, and she wanted to introduce us to her mother and her brother and her sister. They had carried her before everywhere that she went. So we go in and we sit down in this very, very small house. I think everybody slept in one room. And there was this bottle of wine that I think was French wine from 1954, right before Dien Bien Phu, sitting up on the counter, the mantle. And it's 95 degrees and no cooling system for this wine. So she goes and gets the wine, brings it down, gets these glasses that were fairly dirty. She opens the wine, and as she starts to pour it, it's dark brown. And it's like, you know, wine's not supposed to look that color. And it didn't smell very good, but being a good guest, I took a couple sips.
You
And
did?
then she goes to the back and she brings some food out. And again, I'm saying to myself, wow, I mean, I'm in a little tiny house way out in the boondocks, you know, so what's going to happen with this food? And again, I didn't want to offend them because they were so nice. So I took a few bites, and the two guys that I was with, Joel Hodge, that a lot of you know, and then our videographer, they look at me, and when they bring the wine out, they were saying to each other, David's not really going to try this, is he? Then they bring the food out. David's really not going to try this, is he? Well, I went ahead and did them both, and they felt obligated to also take some. So then we get a hold of the taxi. They walk us out to the taxi. They walked us all the way down the street, and so we could make sure we got in the right taxi. And we get into the taxi, and Joel brings out a whole vial of whatever the diarrhea, not amoxicillin, but the other one, Lomotil, whatever it was. And we're all popping about 3 of them. And we're just praying that the next morning we don't all have food poisoning. But that story's not over. So she starts writing me letters. And somebody helped her with some English, and I would get these letters, so I corresponded with her several times over the next 2 or 3 years. And then I said, I'm actually going to be coming back to Hanoi in 2006, I don't know, whatever, 2008, whatever the year was. And she comes out to the distribution.
Wow.
And now she's working. She wanted to go to medical school, but in Vietnam at that time, you couldn't go to medical school if you were in a wheelchair. You know, they wanted fully abled physicians. So she came out. She had a different wheelchair. It must have been like 5 years later. It was like a more advanced wheelchair, and she was working for some type of a foreign language institute. She comes out, and we got pictures of her, and I gave her a copy of my dad's book, and she was smiling. So anyways, for all I know, she might be at this distribution tomorrow. Somewhere in Hanoi on our way to Ha Long Bay, because she lives outside the city, and she came to that one spot, and I'm assuming it's the same spot.
Wow.
So, but it was just priceless when she looked at Mike and she goes, well, that was then, this is now, we are friends.
Oh,
And that was 20 years ago.
that's great.
So we're much better friends now than shortly after.